You think about me.
Good morning, everyone. It's Craig Studnicky from RelatedISG Realty. Normally, I like to talk to all of you about the Miami report at the end of every business quarter. This is the middle of Q4, and I'm here today to give you an update on Q4. And the reason for that is because the numbers have been so extraordinary in the middle of Q4 that I thought you should all get an update. And for that reason, the Insider Series today is me giving you the benefit of some remarkable numbers that really point to a V-shaped recovery for the residential market here in South Florida. So with that said, let's start. This is, once again, continued reasons for optimism with single-family homes. I'd like you to first start remembering my old rule of thumb. When 10% or more of any given building or a single-family home community is on the market for sale, that's a buyer's market. There's a lot of choices. But when it's 10% or less, that's absolutely a seller's market. And we have been in a seller's market when it comes to single-family homes probably all year. And in fact, it's even gotten tighter. This shows the amount of single-family homes that are currently for sale in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Folks, you're not under 10%, you're under 1%, and you're way under 1%. 0.64, 0.68, 0.64. It's tight. You know that. But what you may not know is exactly how tight it's getting. This is a quick 15-year picture of what happened with it, what's happening and what happened with single-family home inventory in MLS. 15 years ago was November of 05. We had just under 15,000 houses for sale. 10 years ago, November of 10, just under 17,000 houses were for sale. 5 years ago, close to 22. But look, these numbers can get a little bit confusing. The previous record of low inventory of single-family homes was actually 12 years ago. It was 2008. The number was 9871. You're currently at 9983. Let me put that in context. The population of South Florida was a whole lot tighter 12 years ago than it is today. And you're 112 houses away from being at the all-time low record, probably the all-time low record of available single-family homes for people to purchase in South Florida. That's almost a frightening number. It explains in part why the price of houses are climbing so quickly. That, together with the constant demand from people literally all over the world, whether they're coming from Buenos Aires or New York City and all points in between, and fueled by extremely low mortgage rates. We are probably going to be expecting a tighter amount of inventory now, January, February, March, and who knows what Q2 even looks like. This is a chart that shows what Andres Oppenheimer predicted back in May. If you recall, Oppenheimer predicted a V-shaped recovery, actually for residential housing, which would include condos as well as single-family houses. This line indicates the amount of transactions that were written in 2019. And what this basically says that in Q1, we were almost 9% more in terms of transactions of single-family homes in 2020 than we were in 2019, which makes sense. It was pre-pandemic. Q2, in the midst of the pandemic, you dropped to nearly 32% of whatever you wrote in 19. A bad quarter. Q3, we were up over 4% of the amount of transactions that we wrote in 2019. By the way, keep in mind, 2019 was a good year. I think we've discussed this before. Interest rates weren't as low as they are today, but they were pretty low. Unemployment was close to 4%. We were all looking forward to the roaring 20s. We were at the end of 2019 and looking forward to a very robust beginning of a brand new decade, not having a clue about what was really in store for us in 2020. But at the current pace of sales, it is likely that we're going to be close to 15% higher in the amount of transactions in Q4 for single-family homes. This is why, in part, I'm doing a mid-Q4 update, because it's extraordinary to us how many houses are getting sold. Once again, fueled by super low interest rates and demand from people moving to Florida, from New York City to the north, Buenos Aires to the south, Los Angeles, California to the west. How does that affect condos? Condos is different. Remember our rule of thumb? 10% or less, seller's market, houses. 10% or more, buyer's market, condos. This is a quick snapshot of what's currently for sale of all the condos that were built just in this past decade. And let me help you, 90% of all the sales that have happened this year with condos are all out of the condos that were built in this decade. They're new buildings, taller ceilings, more modern amenities, et cetera, et cetera. Close to 16% of all of those condos are currently in MLS, a buyer's market for sure. Fort Lauderdale and Brickell Avenue are the two tightest markets. The beaches, ironically, have the most inventory. I say ironically because it's the beach. From South Beach all the way up to Hollywood Beach, that's where you have most of the inventory. It's also where you have most of the opportunity because something has happened here in Mid-Q4. People are learning to live with COVID. We're learning, to live with these masks. We're learning to not be so afraid of going into buildings again. I say we, I'm talking really more about the customers. They're taking us into buildings, and that's where the deals are because that's clearly the buyer's market. In Q1, Q2, look at this ratio. Normally for every two residential transactions that happen, I think I've said to you before, one's a house and one's a condo. In Q1 of this year, 70% were houses. Clearly, houses dominated the buying preference. By Q3, Q4, you can see it coming back into a normal balance. It's still being led by single-family homes, but look at the comeback that condos have made. Here's that V-shaped recovery, as authored by Andres Oppenheimer back in May. We sold slightly more condos in the first quarter of this year, of 2020, than we did in the first quarter of 2019. Q2 was a disaster. Q3, we made a very nice recovery, though still not quite as good as what we did in 2019. But look at Q4. Condos have made a remarkable recovery because buyers are asking you to take us into condos. The price of houses are very, very high. The availability of houses is very, very scarce. And so condos are starting to look like a very interesting alternative. It's showing in the numbers. And for all of you, that's the buying opportunity for your clients. Because while I just said to you, there may be 16% of all of the inventory that was built since 2012 is in MLS, it's not going to last very long. I mean, I'm projecting to all of you, this is 6 to 9 months of a buying opportunity. Because remember, developers haven't built anything in the last 2 years in the form of condos for reasons that we will get into at the end of this quarter. They may start building in another 2 years, but that means there's 5 to 6 years from now of a market where there's really no condo inventory for people to move into. Significant inventory, significant new inventory for people to move into. You have a buyer's opportunity right now. That right now will last roughly, once again, 6 to 9 months. Let me end this brief mid-Q4 presentation with this. At the end of Q3, at the end of September, I said that we have written 86% of the total real estate transactions, residential transactions, houses and condos, as we did in 2019. So from January to September, call it 63,000 transactions took place. From January to September this year, 54,000. That's 86% of the volume of 19. And I said to you at the end of September, by the end of December, this number, 86%, will be somewhere in the 90s. Not sure where, but I promise you, we're going to get very close to the total volume that we wrote in 2019, which speaks so loudly about the popularity of South Florida. We'll take a look at this. At the end of November, you're at 97.5% of all the volume that we wrote in 2019. I said to be somewhere in the 90s. I didn't expect to be very close to 98% by the end of November. And if the current pace of transaction just maintains itself between houses and now condos, this is what it looks like by December 31st. You will match 2019, which is beyond extraordinary when you consider what 2020 was, more particularly and more specifically what Q2 meant to all of us when we were in quarantine as a result of this pandemic. It is a kind of sad irony, but nevertheless I guess, a silver lining for South Florida. That Corona somehow has made Florida more popular than ever. It doesn't matter if they live in Buenos Aires, in Lima, Peru, in Santiago, Chile, in Bogota, Colombia, in Mexico City, Mexico, in Los Angeles, California, in New York, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois. People are coming to Florida. The Americans are coming here, you can say, because of tax reasons, because of the Tax Reform Act of 2017. You can also make the argument that Corona accelerated that movement. In South America, it's partly Corona and partly the dollar is weakening. Yes, I'm using the present tense. It's weakening. Most currencies are right back to pre-pandemic levels, January, February of this year. And because, well, let's just say that most economists are predicting further weakening of the dollar, slight devaluation, which now makes our assets more affordable for all of our friends in Latin America. Put them all together, Florida has become more popular than ever. Get ready. December, January, February, March. As long as mortgage rates stay as low as they are, we're all going to be extremely, extremely busy. I'll see you at the end of December for the final Q4 update, but just thought it was important that we give you an interim report because the numbers are indeed extraordinary and surprising. Wishing you a happy holidays, and I'll see you at the end of December. Thanks. Bye-bye.